Welcome. I'm Nick.
And I'm Flavio. I guess that's obvious.
Yeah. And, I'm standing in front of everything.
Yes, don't stand in front of everything.
And we're going to be talking about working remotely. Some lessons learned, some goods, some bads, some things we would like to see better. I've been working remotely for about 10 to 12 years for various startups, working for myself. And Flavio?
I think it's about 6 years, really, already. It's been a hell of a ride. And it's a great opportunity to share all the things that we've learned. This is, I think we have a couple of disclaimers that Nick is going to run us through.
Yep, so all of these things that we're going to talk about are basically our own observations. So stuff that we've run into, stuff that we've talked about, but not necessarily everybody else feels the same way. So if you don't agree with us, that's perfectly okay.
I think the other thing is that since we work remotely and in different time zones, it was really hard for us to sync. So we're hopefully not going to fuck this one up. We barely tested the talk, and I almost missed my flight last night, so I was not going to be here. I was actually going to do this talk remotely, which is part of the whole point that we're trying to make here. But I finally made it. I'm actually very happy to be here. So should we get the party started?
Yep.
So who works from an office? Can you guys raise your hand? Or at least, well, clap, because I can see shit. I don't have my glasses on either. Good.
So that sounds like most everybody.
That's a lot of people working from an office. Well, here's a list of pros and cons of working from offices. Pros, well, there's human contact, that you can talk to other humans easily and faster, easier and faster feedback loops. Like whenever you need something, you just turn to your buddy or your colleague and you have them right there. You don't need to chat, you don't need to write a whole bunch of things. You probably, if you work from an office, it's very likely that you're working in an environment that, where the language is your native language, so that makes it even easier, unless you move somewhere else, and then, well, that makes it more exciting. But still, like, it's easier because you have people around you. And you have some other pros is that you have utilities covered by your employer, so you don't have to pay electricity, you don't have to pay your desk, your chairs, and all the things that you need to get your work done. Well, except for your laptop. The laptop is a thing that, well, in most of the cases, always paid by your employer, I hope. And if not, you should change jobs. And there are some other cons.
And so some of the cons are obviously going to be commuting. So I personally hate commuting. Offices are often noisy and distracting, so I can never get any work done because in office is too much noise going on. Breeding ground for illnesses, so whenever somebody gets sick, they always come into the office, and then they get everybody else sick, and then the biggest con is
you have to wear
pants. So I don't...
That's a huge con.
So yeah, wearing pants is just a big con.
Or shoes, even in some work. Yeah, I love my sandals, so I hate wearing shoes. All right, who works from a co-working space? Same thing. Clap if you work from a co-working space. Jesus, no one.
Not a single one.
Wow.
That's
all right.
Impressive.
That's actually good for you. So some pros of working from a co-working space. Well, you still have some human contact. It's probably not the same human contact that you want to have because you have all these weirdos around you that not necessarily work in the same area. Well, that's good because you get to explore new areas. You get to have different conversations with people, which is awesome if you like talking to people. But yeah, like you get human contact. You get out of your house and you get to see the world a little bit more and familiarize yourself with your area and your town and meet new people. Which for some humans is a good thing. Food and drinks included in the rent sometimes. I guess most of the co-working spaces have these facilities. I live in Italy, so we don't have these. We pay for our coffee and all our stuff. But yeah, in most of the cases in big countries and other countries like the US and UK and other parts of the world, you get a whole bunch of things as part of your rental for a co-working space. And another pro is, well, it's having a routine of going to the office. It's kind of like, it's a bit ironic actually. Like, it's like you have your routine to go into the office, but then as a con you have commuting. Yeah, you get out of your house, like we said. Like you have a routine. It's easier to be disciplined when you have to go somewhere to actually get your work done. You get a motivation to get out of bed.
And then some of the cons are going to be pretty much the same of the cons working in an office. You have to commute. It can be noisy and distracting. Another breeding ground for illnesses. You have to wear pants, but then the other thing is it's more rent, unless it's paid for by your employer. So a lot of times people end up paying another couple $100 a month just to rent an office space. Luckily, at my company, Elastic, they will pay for your co-working rent space, but that's not going to be the case for everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I think Red Hat does as well for some, depending on the country. Not every country get the same benefits, but that's a good benefit to have if the company that you work for pays for it. So who works remotely? Nice.
Nice.
All right. That's our people.
I'm going to say it's about 50-50 between office and remote.
So who can guess the first pro of working remotely?
No pants.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes, no pants. You can work from home, you can wear your pajamas, and for most of us, pajamas is no pants. So that works perfectly. You don't necessarily need to tell your boss that you're not wearing pants. You can say you're on your pajamas. So office and space utilities can be a tax write-off in some countries. That basically means that if you pay for your office utilities and you work from home, you can deduct that from your taxes. Again, not true for Italy because, well, hashtag Italy. But I guess. But yeah, you get that in many countries, which is a great thing to have, honestly. Either that or get your company to pay for some of these things. Focused and isolated environment, I love that. I love when I'm working. I think the only person that I like to have around is my wife. Otherwise, I don't want anyone else around me. Because I like to be focused, I like to be with my laptop, and I like to be, like no noise whatsoever. Commute where and when you want it. Yeah, ooh, did we spell that right? Yeah, when you want it, if you want to. And you don't have to commute, you just have to wake up, go to your laptop. Please go to your laptop, don't work from bed. That's actually not super healthy. But if you want to commute somewhere, you can do it. If you want to work from a co-working space, you can do it. If you want to work from home, you can do it. If you want to go to a park and work from the park or to the beach, you can still do it. You're free, you have full flexibility, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And another pro is no human contact, which happens to be a pro, like human contact happens to be a pro for co-working spaces and when working from offices for many people that like having that human contact. But for me, at least, and no offense, but the fewer humans I have around, the better. Unless I'm in a conference, really. I really enjoy the conference environment. But when I'm working, I really like to be isolated and focus on the things that I'm doing. Unless we specifically plan like a meeting or something that we want to just hang out with the rest of the colleagues.
So then some of the cons are obviously going to be working from home or overworking. So it's really hard to disconnect, to turn off. When the Slack bell dings, it's easy to answer. It's easy to just do that one last thing at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night before going to bed, which turns into one other thing, and all of a sudden you're overworking. It requires discipline and self-motivation. So if you can't self-motivate, you don't have the discipline to work, it can be very easy to procrastinate, to get distracted by other things, to want to play Xbox or PlayStation, and actually not do any work, the opposite of overworking. And then you're on your own for covering utilities in most countries. Luckily in the States, I can actually, I can write off the square footage for my office and a portion of my utilities and a portion of my cell phone bill and all that kind of stuff, but that's not going to be the case in most countries.
Yeah.
So.
Again, hashtag Italy, you don't get that. All right. So we're now going to go through some of the questions and these pros and cons and trying to provide some feedback on some of the things that we found surprising, good, either good or bad from working remotely. And hopefully that's going to be helpful for the audience. So one question that we asked ourselves when we were kind of like discussing this whole presentation is like, what do we like the most about working remotely? And I don't know, like I would say for me is the flexibility, is being able, and they're different, again, like there are different kind of like remote working. There's remote working from a co-working space, and then you have your other office mates somewhere else. And there's the remote working where you're free to go wherever you want. That's the kind that I do nowadays. And I think the flexibility, being able to just like go wherever I want, like traveling for me is super important, meeting new cultures, meeting new people around the world that are not in tech, for fuck's sake, not in tech. Again, no offense. And it's super important for me. So being able to just like go around and just work one day from some country and work some other day from some other country, like just yesterday I was in Vancouver and today I'm here. So that's part of the things that I love to do and that I can get from this kind of like work. And I don't think there's well, I was going to say there's not enough money that would make me change that, but that's a lie. If you give me a $1 million, I will totally go to the office. I set my price already. Damn it.
And then for me, like I enjoy actually all the same things that Flavio was just talking about. But one story for me is when I met my wife, she came out to Colorado to visit and was helping work a multi-day stage race. So because I work from home, I can work from anywhere. So I packed up my dogs, I packed up my computer, and I took my truck and I just followed her as she helped work this multi-day stage race. And I would be working from the side of a river, next to a campfire, anywhere I had cell phone service and I could tether my laptop, I would be working. So I was on conference calls with the sound of the creek bubbling behind me, and it was just like really nice and really relaxing. And I didn't have to worry about anybody bothering me. I could just focus on the things that I needed to do and get my work completely taken care of. And I could do it in an environment that was suitable for me, which is most likely outdoors in the sun, away from people. No offense to you guys.
Yeah. Were the people on the other side of the phone jealous about you working from a creek and right next to a river?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, okay. That happens to me quite often.
It ended up becoming a thing where they would ask me, where are you working today? As soon as we would have our stand-up. So I was always in a different town or at a different creek or a different campsite, but every morning was always different, so they'd want to see where I was and that kind of stuff. So it adds a little bit of pizzazz to your stand-ups sometimes.
I kept putting everything that I did and the places that I went to on Twitter until people sounded like, I know where you are because you put everything on Twitter. I was like, stop doing that. It's kind of like, it's dangerous sometimes, especially when your boss follows you everywhere.
So what did you find surprising? What did you have to change when you first started working remotely?
Wow. This is, okay, so I was in another conference last week and we had this kind of like panel and this question came up and I wasn't expecting it, so it took me like 5 minutes to actually realize I had to let the other guys speak first. So you guys go first, I don't know what to answer here. And after like, think about it a little bit, I think what I found, like the change that I had to do that I found most surprising is that I had to start paying attention to email, and which is something that I didn't used to do when I was in the office because you have all your colleagues right next to you, and you just turn around, you talk to them, and it's very easy to get things done without actually having to write them down and going through the whole communication process, which is not very remote friendly and inclusive, I guess. But one of the things that I had to do is, start reading emails, reading mailing lists, and getting back to people over email. But that's not really the most surprising change. The most surprising change is that when I started doing that, I realized how bad I was, or am, really, in communicating in written form. And it's not just grammatical. It's not about the grammatical mistakes or that we can do or not while writing, but it's about conveying a message in a written form. And trying to use the least amount of words possible and still being able to communicate that. Because as a reader, and especially working for a company that is mainly, it's just English speaking company and a community that is all English speaking, and I'm not a native English speaker in case you didn't notice that. And it's kind of like, it's kind of hard to try to translate from your language into another language and try to convey the same message in a very like summarized form. So I found it surprising how bad I was in doing this, and so I started actually reading. I paid Grammarly. I paid other things that would help me, improve this thing. And I think that was one of the things that I try to just like mentor other people to do it. Even native English speakers, like you would be surprised at how many people like write this. She's like super long emails, like pages and pages of email, and at the end of the email, you're like, I still don't know what you were trying to say. And so I hate that. I think it's very respectful if you can communicate and in a very like short form and still convey your message to the people on the other side that is reading your email, especially if that person is not a native English speaker or native in the language that you're writing on.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, did you change anything, or?
Well, for me, actually, the hardest thing that I found surprising was how much I overworked. I would find myself working 15 hours a day just because I was at home and I could have my laptop with me on the couch watching TV, just doing whatever, and I'm still working. And I never unplugged, and it was really hard for me to overcome that urge to always be online. When you work for a company like Elastic, where we have people in 36 different countries, I think. The team I work on, there's like 12 people spread across 9 time zones. So like somebody's always online. So it's easy to also always be online. And learning to disconnect and having your, 5 o'clock, this is when I'm done, or 7 o'clock, this is when I'm done. I will answer email, I'll answer Slack tomorrow. Just like having that discipline to do that was the hardest thing for me to change and to overcome.
Right. You said 12 people through 9 time zones?
Yeah.
How are meetings working out for you guys?
What was that?
How are meetings working out for you guys?
We schedule meetings 2 times a day.
All right.
One day a week, but 2 times a day, and you can join either one. So the managers have to go to all the meetings, but you can pick whichever one you want. So we have one that's 8 o'clock in the morning for me, and another one that's at 2:30 in the afternoon, and I go to that one because I'm not up by 8. I'm not usually up before 9, except for today.
Sorry about that. Human combat. How do you overcome loneliness? I mean, if that's a problem for you.
Oh, human combat. That was supposed to be...
Contact, yeah.
Contact.
Well, here's the thing. I noticed it this morning. I didn't say anything. I just wanted to leave it like that. Because I found it hilarious. Like,
I like it better this way.
Yeah, it's like human combat. How you combat other humans when they're around you. So if loneliness is a problem to you, and I mean, like, to be fair, I think it's a problem for everyone. Like even for me, that I like being isolated when I'm working, it becomes a problem sometimes. Like, I think I'm kind of like, I'm good because I always have my wife around me, and I always have another human to talk to. And we normally go out and we try to have friends around, and we travel a lot, so we try to meet other cultures. And that's how I guess that's how I overcome the lack of human contact in my life. But it can be, if you work remotely, you can feel like extremely alone in your house and the stuff that you're doing. And it can be very depressing and demotivating, really, when you're trying to do something. So the way I combat this is by actually going out, forcing myself to go out. It's very easy to spend 3 weeks in your house and never leaving your house. So I force myself to go out. One way to do it is just finding new hobbies, going to the gym, going to concerts, just finding new things to do that not necessarily involve alcohol. And there's nothing wrong about alcohol, really, but that tends to be the easiest way to push ourselves out of our homes. But there are many other things that would not only help us to have other relations with other humans, but also like provide us enough content that we can bring back to our work. One of the things I found most fascinating is the more hobbies I try to find and have, the more things I find that I can apply to our work, and they're completely unrelated to tech, or at least they force me to kind of like try to overcome my limits and kind of thing. So yeah, find new hobbies, find new things that will push you out of your comfort zone and out of your home environment, I guess. What about you? Do you have this problem? Do you feel lonely? I can move to your house if you feel lonely. I'm pretty sure my wife would be happy about it.
I'd appreciate that. So I live up in the mountains in Colorado, pretty remote, so not even in a city. So it's really easy for me. Yeah, Flavio's been to my house. It's very easy for me to not get out, and when I don't get out, I definitely will not see people. But one of the nice things about Elastic is we have this concept of a always-on Zoom channel. So basically what that means is you can hop onto the always on channel, and there may or may not be somebody in there, but you can always ask for someone to come into the channel with you, and then you can have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. If you want to hash something out, talk something over, it's always on. Sometimes it's encouraged to just hop in the channel like once a day for a little bit of time just to see who's online. So you get that face-to-face contact with your employees, with your team. It's not always over Slack. You get you get to see their face as they talk, which is kind of important, because I feel like in text communication, context is often not there. It's very easy to put meaning or to put feelings onto words that may not have been there when the message was sent. So being able to talk to somebody face to face is kind of important.
Is that mandatory in Elastic, like being on the always on, kind of like?
It's not mandatory,
right.
but I'm going to say that when I started, they said it was encouraged, but it's not a mandatory thing. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But if you do have that person you want to talk to, it's there. You don't have to schedule a meeting. You can just hop in there, and it's basically the virtual equivalent of going over to your partner or your coworker's desk and being like, hey, do you have a second to hash this out?
Right. Yeah.
And then.
Go ahead. I was just going to say one thing that we do sometimes is pair programming, even on things that I'm not necessarily directly involved into. Like if I'm working on this project, but there's another buddy of mine like working on something else, and either of us is having a problem, we just ask that person to jump on the channel. We use Blue Jeans, not Zoom, on the Blue Jeans bridge, and just hang out for an hour trying to solve the problem. That actually has worked out very well for us, but. I think I don't like the feeling of being always on video, especially because I don't trust myself. So.
Well, that's why you go back to the new pants thing. You just don't stand up.
It's always sitting. Feedback loops. How do you handle this? How do we handle this?
So. What I like to do is I like to have regular meetings with my manager. Once a week, maybe a couple times a week, just to stay in the loop, be aware of what's happening with the company, be aware of what's happening with the team, other people in the team. And then also I like to report back what I'm doing, because I feel bad when nobody knows what I'm working on. If I've been working on a project and it's been a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and I haven't reported back progress to anybody, I start to feel like, hey, maybe nobody thinks I'm actually doing anything. I don't want to be the guy that's on the roof at Huli. So I mean,
took a second to let that one sink.
But I like to have that constant feedback. So I meet with my manager fairly regularly. I like to tell him what I'm working on, get feedback from the company as well, like what they're working on and what's going on there. So I'm actually feeling like I'm part of the company. So when news happens, I'm there. I forgot to mention on the previous thing, another thing we do at Elastic is every meeting is recorded. So if you are unable to make a meeting, we record the meetings through Zoom and we put them all up on the Google Drive. And then when you have time, you can come back and watch that meeting. So
have you ever done that? I'm terrible at doing that.
I do that. It's really nice to watch a meeting at 1.5 speed, so you don't have to sit there and listen to everybody just babbling. So
That's
you get through meetings pretty quick.
That is a good point. We don't record every call, but we only record the ones that are supposed to reach many people and that carry some important information. Well, actually, it's not. It is actually important information, but normal one-on-ones kind of thing, or team meetings kind of thing.
Those typically aren't recorded, but some of the bigger ones or anything that's
all
important.
Hands and also,
yeah.
Okay, we do record that. Yeah, that's good. Let's see. Working long hours. How do you avoid overworking? Well, I got married. That's how I solved it. Now I have someone that is actually waiting for me after work. Well, that's one way to put it. Which used to be that used to be my way to stop working. And you have someone and you want to do something different after working. You want to explore these new hobbies and kind of thing. So finding hobbies was one other way to do it. But I recently started trying to organize my day, which I'm really terrible at, and I'm not proud to say this, but I'm really terrible at kind of having a plan for the day. So what I started doing lately is I'll wake up and with my first coffee, I'll try to think about the things I want to do today, kind of write them down, not more than 3 or 4 things, otherwise it's just too overwhelming, and I feel bad at the end of the day if I didn't complete them all. And at the end of the day, I don't necessarily need to complete them all, and I think I'm most of the days I'm happy if I manage to do 1 or 2 of those things, and then at the end of the day I try to answer these 3 questions. The first one is, and I actually got this from a podcast called Cortex. If you haven't listened to it, I recommend it. One of the episodes, this guy that he likes journaling a lot, and he was saying, proposing this. So one of the 3 questions I try to answer always is, what went well in my day? You know, what things I'm happy about? What things didn't go as well as I was expecting them to be, and what kind of things I can change in the future or improve from my day. It's a good exercise. I'm not gonna lie, it annoys the hell out of me to do that. But yeah, I'm trying to be disciplined at doing it as I'm disciplined at getting up and out of bed and doing my work, because I feel like that forces me to have a limit on the amount of work I do, and it forces me to actually think about the things that I want to do and not necessarily be overwhelmed about the things that I have to do in the next 6 months and try to do them all in the same day, which is the thing that normally, at least in my case, pushes me to keep working, try to just like chunk as much things as I can in a single day. Yeah. Does that? I would assume that happens to you, really.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna sidebar just a little bit. Those 3 questions, yeah. I actually do those with my wife. Almost every day.
Yeah.
And it's actually really good strategy for not just how you manage yourself, but manage your relationships and manage friendships with other people as well. But I am a frequent burnout person. I've had multiple burnout stages. I feel like I've finally reached the point where I can sustain work and sustain life and sustain myself without doing too much of anything. Those who know me know when I run, I do ultramarathons, so I do everything kind of to the extreme. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what an ultramarathon is, it's a race that's greater than a marathon, so 50K, 100K, 100 miles.
Basically running like there's no tomorrow.
Well, you run till tomorrow.
Pretty much.
But, so like managing this burnout, managing working long hours, it's actually, I sometimes let that urge to procrastinate actually take over for me. So, and I don't feel bad about it, because sometimes, the new game on Xbox comes out and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play that today. I'm going to play it for half the day, and then I'll work. And I may make up some of that working time later. But I've stopped worrying so much about how much I need to get done, how much I need to prove that I got done. Because I keep this feedback loop with my manager, he knows what I'm working on, where I'm going, what I'm doing, so I don't have to have like huge, massive loads of commits to just be like, yes, look how productive I was because I have 100 commits in a day. Like, that's not a measure of productivity. That could be a measure of just thinking or procrastination as well, because you just manage to do so many Git commits over a day. But
right, I think that's a good point. Stop worrying about how much you got done in a day and worry more about when you want to get those things done. I think that's something that's at least that's how I'm trying to view it these days. Instead of trying to get everything done in one single day, I would even schedule things for the weekend if necessarily. I don't really mind working a Saturday if it's just raining outside, I have nothing to do, and then just taking one of the weekdays off and do something different, right? That's part of the flexibility that you get when you're working remotely. And I think that's also why I try to now like plan my days a little bit, just a little bit at least.
Well, I also like to take a running lunch in the middle of the day. So
brunch,
a brunch, yes.
So you eat while running, basically?
No, well, I have done that, but I'll go for a run and then I'll grab my lunch and come home, and my lunch break ends up being a 2-hour or 3-hour lunch break, because I was out in the woods running on trails with my dog and having a good time. So, and then I can come back to work and I can actually be productive again, as opposed to just sitting there staring at my screen wondering why isn't this particular piece of code working, or why can't I get this to work. It's easier just to step away from the problem, go do something else for a while, and then come back and let your brain kind of chew on that in my subconscious. Yeah,
that's awesome. Oh, you mentioned something that I think we have a slide for, and it's procrastination. It's my favorite topic. So how do you avoid that, if you do?
I actually try not to purposefully avoid it. I'm one of those that wants to get as much work done as possible, but the procrastination sometimes creeps in. So more often than not, I will not be procrastinating. I think if my wife were here, she would disagree with me. But I have a tendency to think about things in my head while I'm doing something else. So if I'm stuck on a problem, I'm not necessarily procrastinating, I'm just thinking about a solution while doing something else. But procrastination can be a problem if you don't have that, let's say, that drive to actually be productive without someone like poking you regularly. So I don't usually let procrastination be a thing that I worry about personally, but I know that it can be a big problem for a lot of people.
I guess it really depends on what we mean with procrastination. I don't mean to get very philosophical now because I think we don't have enough time left, but I don't think, like, procrastination technically, like, it's doing something else besides, like, doing something that you're not supposed to be doing right now. Like, if you're supposed to be working and you procrastinate if you're doing something that is not work, basically.
Yeah.
I actually don't avoid it at all. It's part of what I like about having my days being dynamic. But I guess what I do try to do is to not procrastinate on things that are not meaningful or important. Like, if I'm gonna procrastinate, I'm not gonna read hacker news because, well, that's basically Jersey short for hackers. There's nothing good in there. But if I want to procrastinate, I'll probably read Reddit, where I have content that is actually filtered and moderated for me, or I would read my RSS feed, or something that is gonna teach me something, I guess. Or I'll just run errands, and which is, you can be seen as procrastination depending on the point of view and the context. But I'll just do things online that I need to do for myself and my personal life. So I guess avoiding procrastination is not necessarily a right thing, at least for me, but rather being conscious of the things that I'm procrastinating on so that I can take the most out of my time. Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it.
So if you ever are procrastinating, if it becomes an issue, like how do you combat it becoming a problem?
Right, that's a good question. So I tend to be very disciplined, so it's hard for me to procrastinate and not realize that I'm procrastinating. As soon as if I end up, like, I don't know a PlayStation or any gaming console because I know myself, and so I would end up just playing all day.
So basically, you remove
I removed some of the distractions.
You remove the ability to have that.
But
distraction.
I still have social media and other things that are like at my fingertips, I guess. And so I tend to be good at catching myself, like, wasting too much time. And if I realize that I've been procrastinating a lot on things that are not very useful for me or productive, that normally means that I don't feel motivated to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And that brings us to the next topic that we wanted to talk, which is motivation. But yeah, in that case, I will not try to avoid the procrastination, but rather try to tackle it and kind of like understanding why I don't feel motivated about the thing that I'm doing. Where I think there is. Right. So yeah, again, so one of the topics that we wanted to talk about is self-motivation. It's hard when you're working from home and you don't have someone to talk to very often, or you don't have good feedback loops with your boss. It's easy to feel demotivated, and that has happened to me quite often in the last in my career, I think. And normally I tend to get bored really easy or get over the things that I'm working on very easily. So I cannot be working on the same task for years. I need to have multiple tasks at the same time that I can juggle with and try to, like, get them done in parallel. Because if I do the same thing over and over, I'll just be bored and be extremely demotivated. But then lately I've found that some demotivation sometimes is actually good. It's weird to say this, but if you're constantly motivated, you don't get to know yourself, and you don't get to know the things that actually motivate you. So I found that the moments that I felt demotivated are the moments where I've sat down with myself and tried to, like, find the things that would help me feel happy again about the things that I do and about tech. I've been very close to rage quitting tech many times because of this demotivation. So when that happens, that you sit down and say, like, so what is the thing that I actually like about this industry and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that kind of, like, brings you back and kind of, like, helps you reflect on the things and have some sort of, like, retrospective on the stuff that you've done so far and your accomplishments, and try to find new motivations to either keep doing the task that you're doing or just go to your boss and say, like, you know what, I don't really feel happy about this thing that I'm doing right now. I would like to change. and you just get to a compromise. You say like, well, I'm just gonna finish until this point, and then I can switch to something else. Or your boss might also say like, just switch to something else right away. Yeah. Or they might just say like, you gotta finish it, and then you're just gonna, grow up and just finish the whole thing. And
yeah, I mean, to go back to the feedback loop, to me that is a good way to keep feeding that motivation, because if I'm doing something and I'm not getting any feedback, any constructive criticism or any sort of criticism whatsoever, I end up finding myself just like, why am I doing this? Am I even doing this the right way? That lack of human contact comes into play, because all of a sudden you're going down a path and you have no idea if this path is any good, if it's the right decision, if it's a bad decision. So then all of a sudden you can find yourself or I can find myself in a demotivating loop where I find myself not wanting to work and not wanting to do that, and I end up procrastinating, and this becomes an issue. So for me, self-motivation comes from finding something that I'm excited to work on, and making sure I'm in contact with those who need to work on it as well, or who have an interest in it, so that we can collaborate, we can work together. And as long as I'm excited about what I'm working on, then I'll stay motivated. And for me, an important thing is being in contact with my manager, being in contact with my boss, so that I can continue to work on things that I find exciting, find the things that I want to work on. That it might sound like a luxury. It may be kind of a privileged thing to be able to say that I get to work on things that make me excited. But I feel like I've worked hard enough where I can actually make those requests, and I've proved that I can actually, make that work in a way that is acceptable with the company and acceptable for me. So
I think I agree. There's some privilege behind that, but I also think that it is something that we all should strive for. And if you're working on something that is not super exciting for you, you should probably try to find a way to change it. I guess especially in our industry, is so diverse that in terms of tasks and things to do, that there are plenty of things that you can do, and you can talk probably to your boss or try to find a new thing. Again, like, it sounds easy to say, but once you get in the loop and you get some self-confidence, I think it's easier. About motivation, sometimes I find it that sometimes I feel demotivated not because of the task that I'm working on, but because of the environment that I'm in. Like if I'm in a very pretty place, like beach or mountain or something, I don't feel the urge to work because I'm enjoying the environment.
That's
so
fair.
It's kind of like, it just makes it harder. But I wanted to ask you something, because you said something like you like having people giving you constant feedback. Do you prefer people telling you the things that you did right or the things that you could improve?
I actually prefer both.
Right.
I do like to have my ego stroked sometimes, and be told that I've done something well. But if I did something wrong or I did something that could be better, I like to be told what I did wrong, so I can actually improve and get better. And I feel like accepting and learning to accept that constructive criticism has helped me grow and helped me get to where I am today, to be able to work from home, but to be able to work remotely, to be able to work from a campsite. Like, I feel like I've been able to take these lessons that people have given me and turn that into positive growth for myself, to put me in a position to have a career that lets me afford the freedoms that I have to be able to travel and do this stuff.
I think that's awesome. I think it's something I'm trying to actually change about myself and work on lately, because I normally prefer people to tell me what I could improve or what I did wrong, rather than telling me what I did correct. And I found out that not being told what you did right sometimes leads you to being demotivated.
Exactly.
And sometimes also leads you to not recognizing the hard work that you're doing. And sometimes even other people won't recognize it, because you just don't care about the things that you did right. You only care about the things that you did wrong and the things that you want to improve.
Yep.
So that even impacts your career, especially if you're working remotely, where you don't get to see the people that you work with every day and share with them all your successes and your good stories.
Yep.
But rather, you keep working on the things that you need to improve and not necessarily get to be rewarded, except for the bonuses. But for
Well, I mean, having that reward is obviously very It's a good feeling to know that you did something right, or you had a good idea, you came up with a good decision, you had an elegant solution. To be recognized for that is good. I feel like that's.
I agree. I'm learning how to enjoy that feeling.
Yeah.
Really, it's something that I've never paid enough attention on because I'm always like so focused on I want to be better, I want to be better, I want to be better, that you don't get to stop and look back and say like, hey, I've done some good things in the past, and you get to feel good about them.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is perfect because I think we ran out of time. So this is our last slide. One of the things that when I started working remotely, I kept telling everyone, working remotely is awesome. Everyone can do it. You just need to be disciplined, and you just need to have a good routine and get out of bed really, every day and do your work. Well, that's a lie. It is not for everyone. And if it is not for you, if you try to do it and you don't feel comfortable doing it, it's fine. I think going to an office is not necessarily a bad thing. It is just you need to find the environment that will allow you to be the most productive in your day. And if that is commuting and going to an office, it's fine. If don't listen to all the remote teas that go around the world, like us, saying that you should work remotely and commuting is crap. It is crap, but you shouldn't feel bad about it if you actually enjoy going to the office. And yeah, again, it's just like find an environment that will allow you to be the most productive in your work, and either co-working space, office, or remote working. And definitely don't feel bad if remote working is not for you. Some of us actually need that colleagues and that human contact, constantly.
That structure.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
So yeah, I guess that's. If you
we
guys have any questions for us, we would love to talk to you guys about remote working. So find us after the conference.
I don't think we have time to take them now, but
we don't have time for them now. But find us after the talk. We'll be here all day today and tomorrow, and we would love to hear your stories or your gripes or your complaints and
questions.
yeah.
Thank you.